What's going on, people? It's your boy Big Augs, and welcome back to the Voice of the Tune. The Premier League is fast approaching with 2 days to go until the first game of the season. Newcastle United we play on Saturday against newly promoted Southampton, and there's no better way to kick off the season with my early season prediction as to where I think we're going to finish, how I think we're going to perform, key players and our transfer business and all the other good stuff. So before we start the video, please make sure to like, to comment, and if you haven't already, please make sure to subscribe. And yeah, man. So I think this summer's been interesting from a Newcastle fan perspective, especially with the whole PSR deadline. Now that's passed, but that period for us was a period of uncertainty. The players had release clauses. Bruno had a release clause up until June 30th, and we didn't know whether or not clubs were going to bid for him. In my mind, I knew no one's going to pay £100 million for a player in June, coming up to their financial year end. So I was confident Bruno was going to stay. With Isak, people are still questioning. People questioned before whether it was going to go to Arsenal, but Arsenal were never in a position to pay £100 million for Isak. So those two players, for me, I was pretty confident that they're going to stay. But the question was then, how do we now clear this, this PSR issue? And obviously there was talk about Anthony Gordon whilst he was at England. Liverpool made inquiries. Apparently we offered him to Liverpool in order to meet this deadline. That didn't happen. And since then, the club has come out to say, look, Liverpool made an inquiry, but he's not for sale. Happy days. So we kept our best players, but we lost. And I say lost because for me it's a big loss. Elliot Anderson, even though he wasn't, a first team or first 11 player, but he was a good player to have in the squad. He's a Newcastle boy. He's homegrown. He's somebody who understands what it means to play for the club. We sold him to Forest for 35 million, and as part of that deal, we got in Vlachodimos, the goalkeeper, and we sold the promising Yakubu Minteh to Brighton. I was probably excited to see him in the squad, or at least in pre-season. After his exciting season at Feyenoord, I was at least excited to see how he would do in pre-season and whether or not he would be part of the plans. But somebody had to go. So and it was him. And I'd rather it be him than Isak or Bruno, because people that I talk to are telling me, so how come we just can't sell other players, but like Almiron and stuff? But we needed to sell players of value, and the players that we had of value are Isak and Bruno's and the Botmans, but we can't sell those guys. So we've got to sell other players of value. And Minter, having a good season at Feyenoord last season, that he increases value, and he was one that had to be sacrificed. That's the way the game is. That's the way football's going. The Premier League's going because of these rules. We saw it with Aston Villa. Aston Villa had to sell Douglas Luiz, and just to meet their deadline, and I think they sold another player to Chelsea. So this is just football and, modern day football in Premier League. So, but I'm glad that we managed to keep our stars so far. And, we've had a decent preseason. Obviously, the Spurs game after preseason doesn't count. And then beating Hull 2-0, the 4-1 win. And then I think we lost 2-0. And then the Stella Cup, 4-0 and 1-0 against Brest. So, overall a good preseason. I watched a lot of the games, and for me, we look sharp. We look very sharp, and I'm excited going into the season. There's been a lot of talk about our transfer business. Why we haven't signed a lot of players, but and obviously, as a fan, you want to see your team, in the news and making signings. But there's been a lot of changes within the team and within the club, which also happened in the summer. We saw Amanda Staveley leaving, and there's been new appointments within the club. So there's been a whole reshuffle, and these things take time. So, but and even Eddie Howe's future at one point was under question, obviously with him being linked to the England job. But we are here now, and it's the ship has sort of settled down, and the season is starting. We're 3 days away from our first game of the season, and off the back of last season, finishing in 7th place for me was a good finish. Taking into account how difficult that season was, man. I think last season was just hell in terms of injuries and in terms of inconsistencies and bans to Tonali. It was literally one thing after the other. Starting that season, everyone was so excited playing in Champions League. But it came back to hurt us because of the way we play, the squad not being big enough, and going quite far in the cups as well. It was just injuries after injuries. So managing to finish seventh, we had finished in the European places, but because we lost at Old Trafford during that week, and top six sort of fell out of our hands, and we had to rely on Chelsea to lose their last game against, I think it was Brighton, I think. And we had to do our business, which we done 4-2 against Brentford. But we finished seventh, and we had to hope that Man United didn't beat Man City in the FA Cup final, which they did, as we know. So now for us, there's no European football. Call me, I don't know what you want to call me, but for me, I'd rather not play in the Conference League. I'll say it again. I would rather not play in the Conference League because, for us and the way we play and the squad we have, especially not making as many transfers as we would like to see, playing Thursday, Sunday football for me would only be worth it if we're playing in Europa League, playing against the better sides and with a better incentive to say if we win this, we can qualify for Champions League. And then probably even us playing in Europa League probably would have given us more revenue than playing in the Conference League. Even though I know people say Conference League would give us revenue, but I feel like the squad can do without it. I feel like the squad can do with a fresh season where there's no European football. It's not a crime, to be fair to you. Oops, sorry about that. It's not a crime, to be fair to you, but I just think for us now, the focus should be getting back into that top six and focusing on probably going far in a cup or winning the cup, because we've been close of recent years. So I think that for me is a positive, and playing one game a season or one game a week in the Premier League and obviously the cup games might work to our advantage, because we know that the last time we had that, we finished in the top four. So our players, the way Eddie Howe plays and what he demands from the players is tough, and we need a big squad to be able to achieve success in Europe and Premier League playing the way we play, and we don't have that squad right now. So that's why I'd say I'd rather not be in the Conference League. I wasn't too mad that Man United won against Man City and we didn't qualify for Europe. It's just what it is. So we entered this season having made probably 2-3 signings. Obviously, Lewis Hall last season was a loan to buy, and this season, so that counts as an incoming, but not really. The keeper, Lacademos, Willie Osula from Sheffield United, we signed for £50 million. The young striker, the promising striker. Do you know that for me that signing made sense? I always said, this season that we needed to sign a centre back, which I'll get onto because we're looking at Mark Gahey, a centre back. If Lewis Hall is not going to be the first team left back, and if it's going to be Dan Burn, then I would have said a left back. But it seems like from pre-season, Lewis Hall is going to probably feature more. Sort of, he's spoken to the media. He's spoken about life at Newcastle, and he's happy to be at the club. And he's admitted himself that to play for Newcastle, you need to be very fit. And when he joined, he wasn't up to that standard, and he hopes now he is, and he can play more because he's a talent. He's a very good player. He's still very young, and we've now paid the money that we have for him, and so I think now is the time for us to use him. So not too concerned about the left back position, but centre back definitely. I've always said we need a natural centre mid, and so that Bruno can do what he needs to do up the field. But we know Eddie Howe likes to play Bruno there. But centre mid, I would have liked us to get one, which I would also get onto because there's players that we could get to improve the squad depth, seeing as we've lost Elliot Anderson, and last season we had midfield problems, with Willock being out, with John Linton being out. We had Lewis Miley and Bruno Longstaff playing 7 games in a row, and so I would have liked us to have added someone in, especially as Willock Anderson, like I said. But right wing for me definitely is a position that I feel like we should sign, or at the start of pre-season, I said, this is a position that we should improve on. So centre back and right wing for me are the essentials, and we haven't quite managed to do that. So there's a lot of people that will be happy to hear me say this, but the business that we've done so far isn't isn't up to scratch. With a lot of team strengthening, I would have thought, obviously, being cleared of that PSR now, we can now go on and spend, but hasn't been the case. And obviously signing Low Kelly on free, the Bournemouth captain, which I forgot to mention. That's sort of a squad depth signing, but I always maintain, the best way to increase your squad depth is by improving your first 11. So you sign players that's good enough to play in the first 11, and then the players who they're replacing trickle down. That way, you've got a healthy competition for places. So the window can improve, and there's still time, but obviously it's always good to get the business done before the start of the season, so players can obviously get the feel of the club during pre-season. But for me, there's no need to panic. But I am excited going into the season. I do feel like this is another opportunity for us to push on and see the Newcastle that we saw 2 years ago that qualified for the Champions League. Like I said, purely because we don't have European football. So that for me will be a bonus. And seeing the games in preseason, we look sharp, man. We look sharp. So this might be a wild take, but don't be surprised if you see us battling again for top four. A lot of people are writing us off because we've not signed many first team players, but like I said, there's still time. But don't be surprised if you see us battling for top four, and if we qualify for Europe and make the top six. Because if I'm to predict the top four, I would say it'll be Man City, Arsenal, Liverpool, right? And then you've got battling for fourth, you would have Tottenham and Man United. I believe Eddie Howe is a better manager than Ten Hag. I believe Eddie Howe can get the maximum out of our players and more than Ten Hag can out of his players. So that will be an advantage against Man United. Aston Villa playing in the Champions League, they don't have the biggest squad ever. So they may even suffer themselves the way we suffered last season. Obviously, PSR rules, they had to sell Luis, so they can't build on what they have. They have to sell. They've sold DRB. So it's looking like they'll be probably relying on younger players, Morgan Rogers, to come in. So they may struggle. So, and then you got teams like Chelsea. Again, Chelsea are going through changes again. Chelsea aren't showing you signs of stability. They're buying players, selling players, changing managers. So they're again a team who are also in transition, always selling and buying players. So, and then that leaves you West Ham. West Ham who have had a good window, but they've changed the manager. So that might take some time to get used to. All these players that they've signed might take some time to sort of get settled in the Premier League. I know Somerville had a season with Leeds in the Premier League, so he knows what it means to play in England. So, but as a team, they're also a team that's going through changes. So, and then you got Brighton with a new manager. So, of all the teams that I mentioned, we're probably the ones who look the most stable, and the ones that, if we can avoid injuries, if we can be better on the ball this season and sort of not be so aggressive with how we play and chase down teams and press, and if we can control the game better and reduce these injuries, we have a team who understands the manager understands the players. For us, the changes is more upstairs as opposed to downstairs on the pitch, so that might work to our advantage. And I feel like I keep saying, without European football, the team is good enough, still good enough, to qualify for Europe, if not push for that top four places, because that fourth space is up for grabs. It's Spurs, Man United, Newcastle, Chelsea, West Ham, Villa, Brighton, give or take, and we have what it takes. We've done it before. So that's my prediction. Literally, I believe top six minimum. I believe that is the requirement. If we sign a centre back, so going on to the transfers now, there's been so much talk about Mark Gahey signing for Newcastle. If we were to sign him or sign a centre back good enough to come in and start for us, or for example, there's players like Conor Gallagher, who I'm not the best fan of, but he has qualities that suit the way Eddie Howe likes to play. He's a runner, he's aggressive, he works hard off the ball. Probably not the best in the ball, but to be in Eddie Howe's team, you probably don't need to be the best player on the ball. You just need to work hard, be aggressive and play on the front foot. He's somebody that I would look at and say, do you know what? We could sign him. If we don't manage to get the Gahey deal done, there's two players in Chelsea we can sign for the same amount of money for Mark Gahey, and that's Chalobah, who's out of favour at Chelsea. Probably we can get him for 25 million. Both players, Gallagher and Chalobah, are training with the youth side. So obviously Gahey is the target, and rightly so, because he had a fantastic summer with England. So obviously Crystal Palace, it's in their court now as to how much they want, and they've said 65 million. So that's that. And then if we were to get in a right winger, the options there are probably limited, because Jacob Murphy's had a good preseason. He's probably been one of our best players. Him with Lewis Hall, been one of our best players. But you still want to sign a right winger, man. Somebody who's probably a bit more polished. I believe Murphy's going to have a good season this season. I think Eddie Howe's got a tune out of him. I think last season we saw signs of it. I think this season Eddie Howe has big plans for Murphy, but you still want us to sign a right winger, just to improve our attack and to increase the depth. There was talk about Madueke from Chelsea again, coming or being signed. A lot of fans question his attitude, but I think he's a good player. To be fair, he's somebody that likes to cut in onto his left foot from the right side. So having that balance of Gouldon on left hand side and Madueke on the right hand side, that wouldn't be too bad. He's very direct. He knows where the goal is, can shoot from long range. So there are options there, but we just probably need to get the deal done, or get these deals done before the window. But ideally, I would like us to have done it by now. But we are where we are. Newcastle United being Saudi owned, a lot of clubs are going to try to price us out. But it's up to us to stand our ground and say, no, this is what we deem this player's worth, and this is what we're going to pay for him. If we start going down the avenue of paying clubs what they want, then you're going to end up in a situation where you're like Man United, where you pay 85 million for players like Anthony because that's what Ajax want, and then you set yourself a president, and then that's it. Now teams add on a 20 million tax because they know that you're going to pay it. So we've got to be very careful, and like I say all the time, like, no signing is better than a bad signing. So for us, it needs to be the right signing. So I trust the club. I trust Eddie Howe that that they're working hard on signings. But just now we just haven't managed to get that marquee signing, because every summer we've sort of done that. Last season it was Tonali, and the year before was Isak. So this summer, hopefully it is Mark Gahey, and we can add on to that as well. But we shall see. But with the squad that we have now, with potential signings, I don't believe why we can't finish in the top six, and fight for that top four space. That's just where I believe we can finish, and that's how good I think we are. And we're not sort of in transition. There's not really many changes. Everyone knows where they play or what is expected from them, because they've been a while now. So there's not really been many outgoings either. So the squad is the same. The squad is settled, and probably that helps us coming into the season, man. So yeah, top six. That's my prediction for the season. Let me know your thoughts. Where do you think Newcastle United will finish this season? Do you think we're going to finish in top four? Do you think we can finish below that, below the top four, below top six, out of Europe again? Who knows? But all I know is that this is a big season for Eddie Howe, with all the changes within the club. Who steadily going. Like, now, the people above now probably will be looking to get their own guy if things don't go their way this season. So Eddie Howe, there's pressure on him, as always, but now there's increased pressure on him. So I trust him. Like I keep saying, I trust him, and I trust the players. We just need to keep players fit and increase the squad depth, and probably we can achieve that top six, and that wouldn't be too bad of a finish. Considering the competition that we're up against. A lot of teams will believe that they've got the right to finish in top six. So it's about us having a good start to the season, man. We got a decent run of games. First game at home to Southampton, who are newly promoted. compared to last season, I think we played Man City, Liverpool, Aston Villa, Brighton, all in the first 5 or 6 games in the season, and it was difficult to even get going. Then having to play Champions League, and then having to you know adjust to injuries, and the ban to Tonali, who also comes back um, within the next month or so. And for us, that will be a big addition. That will be like a new signing. Because we know his qualities, he's good experience, and I'm sure he's itching to go, itching to repay the fans and the club. He's been really patient for him, and he's really understood him and supported him. So having him back will be a good addition. But still, I still want us to make 3 signings, man: centre back, centre mid, and a right winger. But the games we have: Southampton, we got Bournemouth, Spurs, Wolves, and Fulham. That's the first 5 games. It's not a crime to say or to expect us to win 3 or 4 out of those 5, and give us a good base to push on, and then obviously push on in the Carabao Cup. Try to go as far as we can. We've been close to winning that last season. Again, close, losing to Chelsea in the quarterfinal, which I was at, wasn't great. In the last minute, Trippier comes on and we concede, and then we lose on penalties. So it's fine details last season that affected us. So hopefully we can learn from those lessons and improve on that. So top 6 finish. Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching. If you haven't already, please make sure to subscribe. And I'll see you in my next video. I'm out. Peace.